welcome to Live Interactive English. I'm Mike.
And I'm Karen. Today we are looking at part 2 of our story called The Bet. So, remember our story, we had the banker and the lawyer, and they made a bet, right?
That's right.
And what was their bet about?
Well, it was a very weird bet. The lawyer was basically saying that he believed for someone who gets caught for a big crime like a murder, it would be better to kill the person than to lock them in jail, because being killed would at least end your life, whereas if you're locked in jail, you'll have many years all alone, and that would be really terrible.
That's true. And then they made a bet, and then I remember, it's like, okay, well, if you can stay in my house or on my property for 5 years, I will give you a lot of money. But the lawyer said, no, not 5. I'll take 15 years. So today we are going to find out what's going to happen in the end. But let's take a guess, I think the lawyer is probably going to give up, is probably going to say, no, this is too much. I can't, interact with my friends. I can't talk to anybody. I feel lonely. So he's probably going to give up.
Yeah, he might think that, well, I can just kind of sit in this nice room, and they had a way of getting music, wine, and books to him. Exactly. He might think, oh, this will be great. One thing I would wonder is, would he make the bet after COVID-19? I think a lot of people found when they were stuck in their home or in a hotel room for 7 days, a couple of weeks, it was a long time. And suddenly doing it for 5 or 15 years, even when you have Uber Eats and you have Netflix and you have all that other stuff, just not being able to go outside or see your friends or take a walk in the park, that would be really hard. So I think a lot of people now that we've all experienced COVID might be much more worried about spending that much time all alone. But it's an interesting bet, it's an interesting story, and we're going to get to the end of it today. So let's keep reading.
At first, the lawyer was lonely, and he occupied his time with novels and playing piano. Throughout the following years, his interests and requests changed, but he continued reading. And as the end of his 15-year imprisonment neared, he had studied history, religion, science, and philosophy in depth, and mastered several languages. With only hours left, the banker was worried. He had lost his fortune and could not keep up his end of the deal. He slipped into the lawyer's room, ready to kill him.
All right, so we have this lawyer. The lawyer thinks that being in jail isn't that bad. He's willing to do it for 15 years, but he's doing it in a small house, in a small building on the banker's property, and he's able to get some things to entertain himself. So yeah, it might not be that bad. Well, let's find out.
Okay, well, at first, the lawyer was lonely, and he occupied his time with novels and playing piano. He had piano?
He had a piano.
He had a piano. That's a great time to learn how to play piano,
right? Yeah, most people in jail don't have a piano.
Exactly. So throughout the following years, his interests and requests changed. But he continued reading. So, actually, it doesn't sound that bad at all.
Well, he's managed to do it. It said after a few years. He's already been doing it for a few years. And, the things he wants or he's interested in, they change. Maybe
over time.
He traded the piano for a guitar at some point, who knows, or a violin. But he continued reading. And, of course, he had some requests. When you have a request or request something, we can also use it as a verb, you're basically asking for something. If you request something, you're asking for it, and what you're asking for is a request. So imagine you're in a restaurant and you want some water. You might request some water from the waiter or waitress. A glass of water is your request, the thing that you are asking for. For example, Claire's request for time off from work was denied. So she asked for time off work, but they said, sorry, we don't have enough people, we're too busy, we can't let you go. All right, so then back to the article. So that was a few years. He was kind of handling it, a little lonely, different interests, reading a lot. But then as we continue, it says, and as the end of his 15-year imprisonment neared, he had studied history, religion, science, and philosophy in depth, and mastered several languages.
Wow, what does it mean when you say you study those things in depth?
Wow, that's impressive. That means he studied them a lot, like kind of to a level of a university student or maybe even a professor. He got all these books on these interesting subjects, history, religion. He read them all back to front. And not only that, he mastered several languages, meaning he not only learned the languages, he became really good at the languages. So he's probably in there reading Japanese philosophy books in Japanese or something. That's incredible. He was not
really
lazy.
Impressive,
He
right?
used his time very well.
Exactly. But I don't think not everyone can do that.
No, I would be going crazy.
Okay, let's continue. With only hours left, the banker was worried. Because he knows that he would have to pay the lawyer a lot of money, right?
2 million rubles worried.
That's right.
Yes.
So he's really, really worried. He had lost his fortune and could not keep up his end of the deal.
He doesn't have 2 million rubles.
So he slipped into the lawyer's room, ready to kill him because he doesn't want to lose his 2 million rubles.
This banker is a
bad
guy.
Exactly. So we have this vocabulary word here, fortune, and that is a noun. Basically, when you say fortune, that just means a big chunk of money, a lot of money. So a lot of times when you see a celebrity, a superstar, or a movie star, a lot of people say, you know, like they get a lot of fame and fortune after they become famous, right?
Absolutely.
So for example, this diamond necklace is worth a fortune, and that means that this necklace is worth a lot of money.
Exactly right. We don't have to say a lot. We just say it's worth a fortune, and I go, then I can't pay for it. All right, guys, we're going to take a break, then we'll be back.
Hello， 大家好，我是 Hanny。我们继续来读 The Bet 这个故事。年轻的律师被关在银行加地产的一间小屋里面，跟外界几乎断绝了所有联系。那么起初呢，他会感到孤独，就把时间都花在看小说和弹钢琴上面。在接下来的几年里面，他的兴趣和要求就改变了，但他还是有持续阅读。那随着这15年的监禁即将结束，他已经深入研究了历史啊、宗教、科学、哲学，还精通多种语言。然后在最后的几个小时，银行家好担心哦，因为他已经失去财产，他没有办法履行他的协议约定，所以打算溜进律师的房间杀了他。好，我们来看单字 request。它可以当名词或动词，表示要求、请求。那么 fortune 表示财富、财产或是运气。Karen 老师在解释时，他用到 a big chunk of money， 就是指一大笔钱。那么 chunk 是拼作 chunk， 这个名词它可以表示大量、一大部分的意思。老师还有提到 celebrity，celebrity 就是名人、名流。那这些人他们通常都有钱又有名声，对不对？好，那这边有2个重点，我们要进入文法时间。好，我们来看第一个重点是过去完成式 had 加上过去分词 pp， 它常常用来搭配过去简单式，用来表达说2个动作或是事件发生的先后顺序。那先发生的我们就用过去完成式，后发生就用过去简单式。例如 I had read the book before I saw the movie， 所以我先看过书，所以我用过去完成式表达，然后后来才看电影，用过去简单式表达。好，在看那部电影之前，我已经看过书了。下一个重点是 keep up one's end， 表示兑现承诺，用来指说兑现可能是某个人他在协议啊、交易中承诺要做的事情，之后常常会接 of the deal。of the bargain, of the agreement 等等。举例来说 ，He failed to keep up his end of the deal。他未能履行约定的协议，也就是说啊，他没有做到自己在协议当中承诺要做的事。接话课文中。
The lawyer was asleep at his desk, and in front of him was a letter he had written. In the letter, he stated that he had gained a great deal of wisdom and that he would prefer to live a solitary life without any riches. The banker was relieved, but also filled with shame for taking so many years away from a bright young man. The next morning, he received word that the lawyer had climbed out of the window and disappeared through the gate, just hours before he was set to be released. Unsurprised, the banker took the lawyer's letter and locked it in a safe.
Welcome back, everyone. So right now we are going to find out what happens at the end of the story. So before the break, we know that right now it's just a few hours before the bet is over, right? And the banker is very, very worried because he does not have that much money to pay the lawyer.
That's right. It looks like he's going to lose this bet. So the banker will have to pay the lawyer 2 million rubles.
But he was thinking about killing the lawyer, so he doesn't need to pay.
Because he doesn't have 2 million rubles. He's a liar, this banker.
Evil.
So he's going to kill the lawyer so he doesn't have to pay him after the lawyer wins the bet. So he sneaks into the room where the lawyer's been locked up for 15 years. And then what do we see? It says the lawyer was asleep at his desk. And in front of him was a letter he had written. So there he is. His head is down. He's asleep at his desk, but he's been working on this letter. And of course, the banker wants to know what's in the letter. So then we read, in the letter, he stated that he had gained a great deal of wisdom and that he would prefer to live a solitary life without any riches.
So that means he doesn't want the 2 million rubles?
Seems that way. So this lawyer has really been changed by this 15-year life he's been having. He's learned so much. He's become a very wise man. And part of his discovery is that, you know what? If I have books and learning, I'm happy. I don't need fancy clothes or cars or diamonds or money at all. I just need to be able to study and learn and make my mind better. He wants wisdom. He doesn't want gold and jewels. Wisdom. What is wisdom? Wisdom is knowledge that you gain by living your life, by having experiences. Sure, you can go to all the best universities and read all the best books, and you will have intelligence, you will have a lot of knowledge and facts in your brain, but you won't have much wisdom until you live your life. And in the same way, you could meet an old man with a long white beard sitting by the side of the road. He's been watching the world go by. He's never been to school, can't even read. But man, he knows about the world because he's lived a life. He's seen so much. He has experience, and that turns into wisdom. For example, our neighbor was an advisor to the president, so he has a lot of wisdom to share. He knows a lot about the world and how things works. He's seen a lot and done a lot, and this has given him this wisdom.
That's true. And you want to talk to people who has a lot of wisdom, right? Because you can
absolutely.
learn a lot from them.
Much more than you'd learn from a book, maybe.
That's true. So the banker was relieved, but also filled with shame for taking so many years away from a bright young man. Yeah, I would definitely think so too, because he locked him up for 15 years, right?
Yep.
Okay, so the next morning, he received word that the lawyer had climbed out of the window and disappeared through the gate just hours before he was set to be released. Oh, okay, so he kind of escaped from the property, so he doesn't need to get the money from the banker.
Right.
I think that's the plan, right?
Exactly. The lawyer basically chose to lose the bet. He broke out of the jail, so that means he loses. But he didn't seem to really care about that. He just wanted to live a life and go travel and learn more things. Unsurprised, it says, the banker took the lawyer's letter and locked it in a safe. So the banker had already read the letter. He knew what the lawyer was thinking, what his ideas were. So he wasn't surprised that the lawyer snuck away, didn't collect his money, and that was the end of the bet.
And we have this vocabulary word here, release. To release, and that is a verb. Basically, if you're talking about, someone in jail or in prison, to release them means to set them free. They are free to go. So, for example, after spending 25 years in prison, Harold was released last summer. So that means Harold was able to go, to be free.
That's right. He's free now. They open the doors, he can walk out, and he doesn't have to come back. He's been released. All right, our what do you think question. This is an interesting one. Imagine that it is 5 years after the story's ending. What has happened to the characters in the story?
Well, my guess for the banker is he's probably going to carry a sense of guilt because he did lock up the lawyer for 15 years, right? And he lost the bet, but he didn't pay the money, right? So he probably carries that sense of guilt. How about you?
Well, I think that the lawyer is probably sitting on top of a mountain, being very wise. As for the banker, I think he is sitting right down at the lawyer's feet, trying to learn as much as he can from this bright young man who he feels a little bad about hurting, but he also wants to learn everything because the lawyer clearly is thinking on a higher level.
You are definitely right. He has a lot of wisdom, right?
That's right. So the banker is now his disciple, his student in life. What do you think, guys? Would you do a bet like that? I don't think I would, but it's also an interesting way of getting a lot of wisdom and learning more about yourself. So maybe we shouldn't be so afraid of the next COVID lockdown that might happen as long as it's not 5 or 15 years. We can use it to gain some wisdom. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We'll see you back here with more great material soon. Until then, take care and bye-bye.
See you next time.
我们读到银行家溜进律师的房间，准备要杀了他。那他看到律师在书桌前睡着了，面前是一封他已经写好的信。那律师就在信中说，他获得了很多学问，宁可过着没有任何财富的孤独生活。这时候银行家就松了一口气，可是他也感到羞愧，夺走了一个聪明年轻人这么多年的青春。那么隔天早上呢，银行家就接到消息说，律师就在他预定被释放的几个小时前爬出窗外，从大门消失了。看来律师是故意要输掉这场赌注的。那最后毫不意外的，银行家也拿走律师的信，把它锁在保险箱里面。好，我们来看单字 wisdom。wisdom 它表示知识、学问或者是智慧，它是不可数名词。那么 release 这个动词，它可以表达释放或者是表达发布。Mike 老师他就是想象说，故事里面的律师现在可能是一位坐在山顶上的智者，然后银行家反而跑来追随他，成为他的信徒。那么 disciple 这个字 D-I-S-C-I-P-L-E 这个名词呢，它可以指门徒、信徒或者是弟子。好，那么以上是这节讲解，同学别走开，马上回来哦。
At first, the lawyer was lonely, and he occupied his time with novels and playing piano. Throughout the following years, his interests and requests changed, but he continued reading. And as the end of his 15-year imprisonment neared, he had studied history, religion, science, and philosophy in depth, and mastered several languages. With only hours left, the banker was worried. He had lost his fortune and could not keep up his end of the deal. He slipped into the lawyer's room, ready to kill him. The lawyer was asleep at his desk, and in front of him was a letter he had written. In the letter, he stated that he had gained a great deal of wisdom and that he would prefer to live a solitary life without any riches. The banker was relieved, but also filled with shame for taking so many years away from a bright young man. The next morning, he received word that the lawyer had climbed out of the window and disappeared through the gate, just hours before he was set to be released. Unsurprised, the banker took the lawyer's letter and locked it in a safe.
Hi everyone, I'm Vivian.
I'm Josh.
And today we are playing Words Up. We have 3 words or phrases on these cards that we have not seen, and we have to work them into a conversation as casually as possible.
Okay.
Okay, let me start.
All right.
Okay, so when I was little, I loved to play a lot with my siblings. So it's my sister, my brother, and myself. And we like to play outside a lot. But sometimes my brother can get a little too aggressive when he's playing, so my mom would send him to solitary.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I used to play with my siblings quite a bit as well. I didn't have any brothers, only had 2 older sisters. And sometimes it did get a bit tricky playing with them because usually dress me up in things like a tutu, things like that. I was more into things like video games, which they weren't interested in at all. So it meant that I was mostly playing by myself, I suppose, which I just had to adapt to. But I found that playing by myself gave me a lot of good fortune.
Oh, okay. That's great that playing by yourself, you learn independence. So I think that's a good thing sometimes. Maybe not all the time because of the social skills. But I feel like my favorite days were when we get to go to the bookstores because a new book was released.
That sounds like a whole lot of fun. And I didn't go to too many bookstores. I normally was hanging around the video stores, which is sort of like your more digital library. They don't have them anymore, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah.
And in fact, I actually used to work in a video store, which was great. But sometimes people would come in and want the most strangest videos, and I just felt I couldn't fulfill that request.
Yeah, I mean, that is difficult. And I feel like when you go somewhere like a video store or a bookstore and you're looking for something, and you really want to look for something and you know it's there, and you just feel like when you can't find it, the store is not keeping up with one's end of the bargain or the deal.
Yeah, you feel like you're getting ripped off. You go in there and you want what you want. The customer is always right. And it's not the customer is always disappointed, because that's not a lot of fun. In fact, I'm probably a customer 90% out of my life. Very rarely am I the one entertaining the customers or satisfying their needs and wants. And I'm all right with that. And what I've discovered through this journey of, I suppose, just being a customer and buying things is it's granted me a whole lot of purchase wisdom.
Nice.
Yeah. No, we've had some very rich experiences.
Yeah, they did.